Hey Bookaholics, and welcome back to another reading vlog. Today I have two things going on for this vlog. The first thing is I bought a new Kindle and I'm going to be test running it. I'm going to be testing out, see how I like reading on the new one, and I am going to be therefore focusing solely on digital reads, which makes perfect sense because all of my physical books are packed now. All of the ones of interest to me are now packed, so they're not accessible to me. What a good and perfect time for me to test out a new Kindle and see how I fare with it. So that's my first thing. The second thing is that I am participating in the Tarot Readathon that is hosted by Deja and Noelle, who I will leave linked down below. I am only going to be doing it for this week. I know it's a month-long readathon. I don't have the time. I'm busy. I'm not going to be able to keep that up. But I decided that I would at least show my face, if that makes sense. At least make an appearance. It's such a cool looking readathon. I was getting so much FOMO, and I had a read it or run haul it planned for this week. And between my Kindle arriving and me desperately wanting to read on it, and me also just not really vibing with reading the books that are left on my read it or run haul it, I'm just not in the headspace to push through books that I've put off for years anyway. We're going to combine the two. We're going to read digital books for the Tarot Readathon, and hopefully I will have a good time. Now, a couple of things. First of all, anyone who has ever watched a booktube video where it's like, oh, and now we're going to pan to something else and then we're going to pan back here. Most of the time, the thing that's panned away is pre-filmed. That's what I had attempted to do. I tried to film my tarot spread, and then I was going to come in, do the intro, and then pan to that, and then these are the books that I'm reading. But the footage didn't save. It doesn't exist. I don't know if I just didn't press record because I pressed unrecord, but it doesn't exist. I don't know where it has gone. I'm just going to have to show you my spread, and then we'll talk about the books that I'm planning on reading. So a few things. I'm not going to talk about how the Tarot Readathon works. I'm just not. It's complicated. I'll leave a link to the announcement video down below where everything gets explained to you. But just know that basically I pick out a tarot card. The tarot card has a prompt. On the basis of that prompt, I pick a book. Also, there is like a 3-card spread that you can do for your team. I've chosen Team Pentacles because it is the one that is linked to my star sign. So it seemed like a good one to choose. And I am going to therefore use the Pentacles spread to see if I can make any of these work for the spread as well. It will make sense, I promise, at some point. And then just as an additional prompt, so I've got 3 cards because I've got the 3-card spread, which means I'll have 3 books, but I am reading 4 books for this vlog because on a weekly basis, Noelle also pulls an extra card that is your significator, which is technically just a book that you can double the prompts on and double your points. None of the books in my spread, the books that I want to read for my spread, also work for my significator. So I'm also going to read an additional book for that extra card. I'll get to it, I promise. My spread is as follows. For the first pull, we have the Page of Wands, and the prompt for this one is to read a cover by, a book that you bought based on the cover. I didn't quite buy this book based on the cover. I bought it based on the title, which, as you lot might know, is also an Our Fantasy bingo prompt. So I'm going to be using this one for Our Fantasy bingo. For this one, I'm going to use A Resistance of Witches by Morgan Bryan. Now, sadly, for this one, I'm going to have to go in completely blind because the hard mode for Our Fantasy bingo is that you know nothing going in. So I cannot tell you anything yet. I'll be able to tell you something once I've started. In whichever is my first update for this book, I will then be able to give you a little bit more information. But at the minute, as per the rules of Our Fantasy bingo, I can know nothing. It had resistance and witches in the same title. How could I not want this? As you saw, my second card is the 7 of Pentacles. And for this one, it is to read a book that will help you progress one of your goals. For this one, I have put Son of the Morning because I just recently found out, I can't remember where I read it, but I just recently found out that Akwaeke Emezi now lives in Mexico. Mexico is not the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, or New Zealand, which means that I have an author of color who does not live in any of those countries, which is another R Fantasy bingo prompt. So I'm using this again for an R Fantasy bingo prompt that I just didn't know was a thing until very, very recently. I just found out, it must have been like a couple of days ago, that I found out that they now live in Mexico. And I Googled it and yeah, it says they live in Mexico. So I am taking it, I'm using it, and that's another R Fantasy bingo prompt off of my plate. So once again, the stars are aligning for the Tarot Readathon, a book I own digitally, and our fantasy bingo. Okwege Emezi is an author I've read and loved before. I have loved so many of their works, so I'm looking forward to reading something else. I believe that this one is a romantasy, and I think it's like a bodyguard kind of romance. We have a woman who is part of this formidable clan of Black women, and then one day she meets this guy who seems to kind of like fill a hole that she has inside herself. I think there's like a mystery paranormal element to it. I think that there's also like he's a demon from hell, I believe. So I'm curious to see how I'm going to fare with this one. I've read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by this author, and I liked it, but there was an age gap romance there. I'm not keen on like older guys normally, but the way that they wrote him was fantastic. I'm excited to see how they fare with the romantasy and how they're gonna kind of deal with I imagine a bit of steam maybe that might be in here. I'm excited. The third and final card for the spread is the Five of Wands, and the prompt for this one is a rivalry or a competition. And for this one, I have another digital book that also happens to work for our fantasy bingo. This is going just obscenely well. For this one, we have Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente. This is the first book in their space opera series, and in it we are in a, I suppose, sort of near future in which some humans get abducted by aliens, but not to fight to the death, but in like a talent show where they're going to need to sing. I think that there's kind of like a level of intensity and stakes to it. But again, like the whole idea of I'm using this for our fantasy bingo because it's first contact but non-violent. I don't know if it's non-violent throughout the whole thing or if it's just like there's the risk of violence but we don't see it. I don't know. I heard people say that this counts for hard mode and I'm going to take it. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. I really liked Deathless by Catherine M. Valente and I want to read more by them. So here for it, very excited. And yeah, it looks like it would just be a lot of goofy fun. So another one that I own digitally, works for our fantasy bingo and works for the Tarot Readathon. And then for the significator, the prompt for the Empress is to read a cozy book. And I don't read a lot of cozy. I'm not gonna lie, I really, really don't read a lot of cozy. But my friend Louise from Foxes and Fairy Tales, who I will leave linked down below, did a vlog recently discussing some recent releases for 2026 so far. And she really enjoyed How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days by Jessie Silver. And she's very much like me, where she doesn't like cozy that has no stakes. So if she liked this one, it's entirely possible I would like this one too. So this is one that I would like to try. It looks a lot of fun. And this is a story in which two people seem to have inherited a house. So basically they decide that they're going to live together and whoever's the first to quit, the other one keeps the house. I don't know anything else really about it, but it just looked fun and I've seen it kind of pitched everywhere. I think the first time I saw it, it was advertised at the end of my copy of Green Teeth because Orbit do that. So I'm hoping that I'll really like this one. Again, I'm not much of a cozy girly, so we'll kind of see how I fare, but it looks fun. I'm hoping I will like it. But yeah, I am looking forward to all of these. I'm looking forward to having a play with my Kindle. That's kind of the main reason for doing this. These all do actually apply to these cards and that these do actually apply to these bingo prompts. So, you know, 3 are fantasy bingos, 4 tarot books and 4 Kindle books. I can't really go wrong. So once I've started one of these and I have some thoughts on them, I'll hop back in, I'll let you know, and yeah, we'll see how I fare as the readathon goes on. Hey vlog, I am checking in because I have made some progress in a book and also my new tarot deck arrived. So I thought I would do the daily pull on camera today. I won't be normally because I normally do like a 3 card spread in the mornings and they're really annoying to do on camera because I hate filming downwards. I don't have like a camera arm that goes to the right angle. I hate it. We're going to just do a 1 card pull today because I need to get stuff done anyway. So it's the only time I'm doing this on camera, but this deck is absolutely stunning. I love it so much. I have posted pictures of all the cards on the Tarot Readathon Discord as well as my Discord in case you want to see like all of the cards. I'm going to do a poll and then we'll talk about the book. I'll let you know how I'm faring with the Readathon so far. These need shuffling. I am notoriously bad at shuffling. It's just who I am as a person, regrettably. I do have quite small hands. I feel like I have quite small hands. I don't know. I've never really gone around comparing it to other people, but whenever I'm shuffling cards, I always feel like I'm about to cramp my fingers up from shuffling. If a jumper comes out, I'll grab that one. And if not, I guess I'll do three more shuffles. I'm going to pull this one. We have the Hierophant. All right, what does this particular deck say about the Hierophant? I mean, obviously the interpretations are always similar, but I always love just seeing the way that different artists and different tarot card creators interpret that similar vibe, what the exact wording is that they use. It says, rationality, convention, tradition. The Hierophant stands between two pillars, symbolizing law and liberty. Her hand gesture, as well as the cross she holds in her other hand, represent her religious stature. The crossed keys at her feet indicate the unlocking of great mysteries. This card encourages you to be cautious and take action only after deep thought, rational debate, and a thorough weighing of possible outcomes. Embrace convention, tradition, rituals, and safety. Now is not the time to take risks or try new things. For now, it is better to stick to the path well travelled, to follow what has worked for others before you. This may also be a good time to seek out a mentor or teacher and learn something traditional and well researched. Well, I'm going to go put my cards away and then we're going to chat about which book I picked. So the first book I went with is How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I went with this one on the basis that this is the one that I'm reading specifically for the Significator, which is specifically only for a week. So I thought, well, if I don't have a chance to finish all of the books this week, the one that I do need to read this week is this one, because it only applies to this week. I am really curious to see how I'm going to fare with this. So far, I'm 25% in, and like I said when I talked about this book to begin with, I'm not much of a cozy girly. I really am not a fan of cozies. And I am blindly trusting Louise on this one. However, so far, the beginning, we had a lot of bickering, a lot of just people picking at each other in a way that I actually found really irritating. I appreciate that's kind of supposed to be the point, and that you're supposed to sort of see both sides. It's interesting because one of the characters definitely is a lot more judgmental, a lot more picking at someone, a lot more trying to irritate someone. But at the same time, their cause is arguably stronger than the other. I'm curious to see how this is going to turn out. I mean, obviously it's a romance, so it's going to turn out as a romance. But I am curious to see how we're going to get to the point where they're collaborating. Because at the minute, we're still very much in the throes of they just want to annoy the heck out of each other. Liking the world building. The world building's very cute. It's very like D&D style fantasy. It's very Middle-earth coded. You have the sort of stereotypes and archetypes that you have of these different species as well, because our protagonists. So Ren is a goblin and Pansy is a halfling, and the halfling community is actually really interestingly depicted because it is very much giving Hobbiton vibes. But one of the things that I like is that it's really showing what tiny communities are like, which is everyone's nose is in everyone's business. And there's also kind of this, when are you going to get married, pressure and blah, blah, blah. These halflings are not hobbits on the basis that it's like, oh, you're 30, you should be getting married. You are considered a child at 30 in the hobbit world. So clearly not hobbits. But, I get why that's in there. It is something that at this point gets a little bit tired. That's the sort of thing we were seeing back in Bridget Jones. And I'm not saying that people aren't pressured into having kids or getting married and following a certain timeline. I just don't need it in my fantasy. It's not relevant. We all know it's a ridiculous notion. It's just not necessary in my fantasy. She could just be tired of being in a small town. She doesn't need to be running away because people are trying to pressure her to marry someone or to have babies
babies or whatever. But I am enjoying the description of the world. I think that's really cool. We also have a wizard-like character in here that I think is going to be the villain. So we have like a villainous Gandalf almost, of just like he comes and he takes away, I think mostly halflings, which is very Gandalf coded, to go on like quests and adventures and things. And our protagonist is just not having any of it. She's just not interested. She's like, no, I just want to go actually sort out my cottage. So that's quite cool. So I am enjoying a lot of the way that this is clearly poking fun at Lord of the Rings, and not in a way that's disrespectful, not in a way that's, ew, Tolkien sucked, this is problematic, just like what if we change the angle just slightly, wouldn't that be entertaining? And it is. So I'm glad that I'm reading it. I don't feel very strongly about it yet. I don't really care about either of the characters yet, because the only thing that we're really seeing of them is a little bit of their home life. So from Ren, they went back to their cave that their family are from, and their family are needing places to be able to cultivate more food for the entire clan. So we're seeing their plight and the way that they are taking on that responsibility themselves, and they're trying to load bear possibly too much and also do it on their own, versus Pansy, who is very much wanting to separate and not have to deal with a community aspect. So you've got them being almost two opposite sides of the same coin, and then you've also got this notion that they are trying to irritate each other, and that's all you've really seen of them. So at the moment, I haven't developed any connections to the characters, but I am interested to see how the rest of the story is going to go. So that was a very long update for me to say that I don't know very much yet. But I am going to go, hopefully, read some more of this today. I am also doing a different vlog on the side today, though, so I don't know how much I'm going to get read of it today. Once I have more thoughts, possibly once I'm at the halfway point, I guess, and I maybe know a little bit more, I'll check back in with some more thoughts. Hey vlog, I'm checking in because I have now made it past the 50% mark of How to Lose a Goblin in 10 days. We are at 54%, and I am really liking this actually. I'm really liking the interpersonal relationships that we have between Ren and Pansy. Now we're at a point where we've gone past the animosity and we've definitely entered into friendship, but there's also that flirtation, there's that heart missing a beat, there's that accidentally brushing hands, there's that getting sugar off of her face kind of thing. Like, that's really cute. I'm really liking that. But I'm also liking the conversations that we have around prejudice, around closed mentalities, around trying to fit in and all of that. Now, this is not as cozy as you'd think in the sense of thematic touches. Now, granted, it's very cozy in vibes and in atmosphere, but it does have things like, for example, a bit of social alienation, that feeling like you don't fit in, that restlessness, that trying to find your place in the world. All of that is in there. So very much like cozy in the sense that it is low stakes, but also just it does still have quite thematically rich conversations going on there. So check your content warnings just in case, because I know that a lot of time with cozy you kind of go in and think, oh well, this will be super easy and light, and it is, but check your content warnings just in case. But I'm really liking the tone of this. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to continuing. I did read quite a bit. Well, I watched Gavin Reads It All's sprints today, so I'm hoping that I will be able to now maybe finish up the rest of the book either today or early tomorrow. I probably won't check in until tomorrow now though, but the problem is that I get really hot. Like, I have to turn the fan off to be in here, so I would rather be downstairs in the aircon, but my kids are in the aircon, so I'm only doing this once. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish this either today or tomorrow, and I'll be able to give you another check-in and we can see how I rate it at the end. All right, vlog, I am here because I have finished a book and I've started a book. I did finish How to Lose a Goblin in 10 days yesterday, last night. It was quite late though, so hence why I'm checking in now. And I had such a good time with it. It was like a rubbing my hands together, like I'm ready for this kind of thing by the end of it. I had so much fun. I really did pick up in the second half. Some of the commentary that we have in there is very much like a really subtle tear down the system of like, just because it's always been doesn't mean it's good. Just because someone more powerful is telling you to do these things doesn't mean you should. A lot of those things are in there. There's a lot of discussions around the divide and conquer of like two oppressed communities should not hate each other just because a more powerful entity is telling you to. So again, you know, community book. We're all about people. We're all about connection. We're all about community. Here for that. Really love that. I really loved the romance between the two and the way that their turbulence worked as well, because the things that would irritate them, the things that would upset them, the things that would make them a flawed person are also the things that make them a realistic person, that makes them easier to root for. Like, we had a section there where one gets angry at the other and you think you're going to get a third act breakup, but I mean, I don't want to get into spoilers. It's unconventional in that sense. And I hate third act breakups. Anyone who's ever watched a video of mine with romance in it, I hate third act breakups. And I just think that it was done in a way that I found really interesting. It's discussing the way that our knee-jerk reactions function, the way that our socialization can sometimes override. And it's something that we were taught about a lot, especially when you are dealing with like adolescents, for example. Like, some of my training comes from the idea that the knee-jerk reaction isn't necessarily the student's thoughts. So just because they'll regurgitate something that's been instilled in them doesn't mean it's their actual thoughts. It's what they do next. And that's presented in here. You have the things that these characters have clearly been taught, that have been instilled in them. You have their biases, their prejudices, and their instincts versus their actual conscious thoughts and decisions, the things that they know about the other person, that they know about themselves. And you can see the way that like the knee-jerk reaction comes in, and then later on the correction that comes in that identifies them as a person. And I really, really liked that, and I had so much fun with it. So I had a great time with this book. 4 stars. Would highly recommend. There is a little bit at the start of alienation, like familial alienation, a little bit of you are not conforming to what we expect and therefore you are a bit of a black sheep, but it does get addressed in the story, I will say, because I know that that's at the start of the book and it might feel a little bit like that's not very cozy, and it's not. It is trying to have a conversation. However, it does get addressed in the book, so do bear that in mind. But it is something that maybe you might want to check your mental health for first, if that's something you yourself have experienced. And I did also start A Resistance of Witches. I am barely in. How many pages in am I? I am on page 29. I have read the first 2 chapters and I am liking this one as well. It is set during World War II. So the first chapter is set in 1940 and the second chapter is set in 1943, and we are following basically the involvement of witches in World War II. So witches never get involved because they've always been mistreated by the people of England, by the people of Britain. They've always been mistreated, so they never get involved in politics, they never get involved in war, etc. However, they have had a vision that if they don't help, we're not going to win World War II. And that will be really bad for witches just as much as the rest of Britain. So one of the head witches has offered the assistance of the Academy of Witches in the war effort. So far, that's kind of all we've had. And we also have this supposed division between what you would call more like garden magic, where it's like, you know, reading of tea leaves and I guess maybe scrying and botany and all those kinds of things. And then you have the more like elite magic, like the what you'd associate with sorcery sort of thing, you know, the more like academic based. And I think that that distinction is also going to be quite relevant as well, of like the way we look down on certain habits and certain practices, which I suspect is also going to have social commentary in its own right. So I'm really excited for that. So hopefully I will enjoy this one. I'm not much of a contemporary history girly. I love history, but I love up until World War I. World War I, World War II, Great Depression, even Jazz Age isn't hugely my thing. I'm much more like Victorians and before. So I don't know how I'm going to fare with this, but I'm hoping that I'll like it. I'm hoping this book gives me everything that I wanted from When Women Were Dragons, which I did like, but I wanted a little bit more from in the commentary section, and I am hoping this will give me even more. So we'll see how I fare. However, one of the things that I have really liked about this is that the chapter sections, not the chapter sections, the part sections are based on tarot cards, which is kind of perfect for the tarot readathon. So that's been quite cool. As to something else that I thought I would mention, because I haven't talked about it, and I did say that I was also taking the time with this vlog to discuss how I'm liking my new Kindle versus my old one. So my old Kindle is from like somewhere between 2010 and 2012. Like, it's been a hot minute, okay? And it had little buttons on the side instead of like being a touchscreen. So, you know, I had a little button at the bottom that was like a mouse, like, you know, like just arrows like you get on a remote, a home button, a menu button, and then buttons on the side to move backwards backwards and forwards, and that's it. So I'm really liking this because it's basically, I used to read a lot on my phone. I use it as a habit to basically stop myself from doom scrolling. So if I see I've been scrolling for a little while, I'll stop myself and switch to my ebook on my phone, because sometimes the reason I won't go and read is because I'm too lazy. Like if I'm sat and I don't want to go grab my book, I'll just be like, oh, I'll just keep doom scrolling. So reading on my phone meant that I would stop that. So I'm really accustomed to the format of the Kindle app, which is pretty much exactly the same as this. This one just has exactly the same formatting as the app, which makes it really easy for me to use. The other day, I actually went to go come out of my ebook and go and check Instagram and then realized I was on my Kindle. It's very accessible to me. I much prefer doing notes on here as well, because it's not as small as my phone, which is the reason I don't like doing it on my phone. But again, I don't have to press a load of buttons. I can just highlight with my finger, which is the thing I didn't like about my previous Kindle. So far I am having a much better experience with this one than with my old one, because I was a bit gutted that I had to upgrade my Kindle, because like there's nothing wrong with my old one, but it's just no longer compatible. It got like discontinued. So basically I can't download any new books onto it. So all the books I've got on there I can still keep, but I can't download any new ones onto there. The battery also does not keep very well at all. Like bear in mind that this one, it's not actually gone down a single percent since I first charged it when I turned it on. I charged it and then it hadn't fully finished charging. I took it off at 93% and it's still at 93%, and I've read an entire book on here. Also in terms of like how long I can use it for. So for example, when I'm going through the airport, when I'm going on a plane, I know that I need to take my Kindle, but I'll also need to read on my phone with my old Kindle, because the battery wouldn't last like the airport, the flight, the airport, and then the other side. So that is also something that I'm really looking forward to, is being able to just read on here till my heart's content. So far, so good. I am having a good time. And yeah, I'm enjoying my books. I'm enjoying the readathon. I didn't show you my card today. I pulled the 10 of swords, guys. I pulled the 10 of swords and I had admin to do today. It did not go well. It's one of those days. But the cards forewarned me, at least. I am enjoying the readathon. I'm enjoying reconnecting with tarot. It's been a hot minute. And I am enjoying the books that I'm reading. And I'm enjoying reading on my Kindle. So things are going well. Despite pulling the 10 of swords today, things are going well. And I'm going to embrace that. So I'll check back in, I guess, once I'm maybe halfway through this book and I can actually give you some more thoughts other than just the witches and World War II. Once I've connected with something or something resonates with me a bit more and I have more to say, I will check back in. All right, vlog, I have now gotten halfway, well, just under halfway. I think I'm 40-something% of the way into A Resistance of Witches. I am on The Hermit, which, yeah, puts me at 45% of the way into the book. So I thought I would check in because we've had, obviously, a lot of developments from when I left you. So we've really gotten a lot more into the World War II section. We actually had some really shocking moments. We had character deaths, really, which you expect from a war fiction, but I just wasn't expecting it in that moment, which I think was handled really, really well. We've met some new characters. We're currently in France, and we've met some new characters. I'm loving Rebecca as a character. She's fabulous. I'm constantly on edge. Like it's really got me. Now, the characters in this are not the characters that you are in for emotion. They're not very emotively written. For me personally, I am tethering to these characters that hope for anti-fascism, which I think is quite relevant, to be honest. When you're seeing people out there on the front lines fighting this fascism in different ways, that's where my interest and investment in these characters comes from, as opposed to any personal link, because these characters aren't written that way. They're not written for you to love them as individuals and cute, soft people. They are manifestations, I suppose, of what we want to happen in the world, of the anti-fascism we want in the world. The way that we've got the magic and the way we've got these enchanted objects, the way we're talking about smuggling artifacts, the way we've got representation in here as well, all of it's been going really well. I'm really glad that I'm reading this. I'm having a really good time and I am looking forward to continuing. So yeah, I'm gonna go do just that, really. I don't have a huge amount more to say at the moment that is spoiler free, other than I'm really liking the setting. I think it's doing a really good job of the World War II setting. It's doing a really good job of making me feel really invested in the characters, if not in an emotional sense, in an interest and a moral sense, I suppose. And I am curious about the plot. I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. The intrigue is really high. So we left at a point where it was quite charged. So I'm really excited to hop back in and see where it's going to go next. So I'm going to go do exactly that, and I'll let you know when I have some more thoughts. All right, vlog, I am here because I have finished a book and I am about to start another. So I have in fact finished A Resistance of Witches. I think this book did a really good job with that ending. I think it did a really good job of highlighting a fictionalized version of women's role in things like World War II, where women often get overlooked. Most of the time when you see depictions of veterans, of combatants, of course, they are men, because those are the things that are highlighted in the war, the sacrifice of life in that sense, as opposed to the women who were holding down the fort at home and the women that were caring for all of those men. And while obviously this book isn't discussing those topics, it is very much discussing a fictional role in women's politics and also in, I suppose, espionage side of the war. It very much is highlighting the way that women's roles are overlooked. So for example, we did have female spies. Women were often used as spies because they were consistently undervalued. Men didn't believe that they could be spies, especially the Nazis. So, you know, a lot of the time we have several women who were spies for both sides because they would suspect them less. I really like what this story did with that. The witchy elements were very cool. The classism, the discussions around the different types of magic, and then also bringing in other elements like we discussed smuggling of artifacts during war, confiscation of artifacts during war. I think that was done in a really interesting way. I think this book did a fantastic job with that. And while I never fully got so into the characters that became new favorites, I did get quite emotional at the end with certain elements that happen. It tugged at my feelings a lot more, I think, than I was expecting. I really wasn't expecting to feel very much for this book, and yet I did. So great time. Would highly recommend. I don't think that this is going to be the book that's going to convert you towards World War II fiction. I'm not a World War II fiction fan, so, you know, it is, I suppose, on the milder side if you're wanting to look at it that way. It is a World War II fiction. It feels like a World War II fiction. It just has witchy elements to it. So this is not going to be the one that converts you if that is what you are wondering. Great book. I had a great time. And if it sounds interesting to you, I would recommend. I gave it 4 stars, and this does tick off both an R Fantasy bingo prompt as well as the Tarot Readathon prompt, so I'm doing pretty well. I also have started Son of the Morning. I'm not very far in. I just thought I'd hop in, give you some brief thoughts, and then I will continue reading, I think, throughout the day. Really am liking so far just the little bit that we've been introduced to in terms of the tone of the character and in terms of, I suppose, what we're setting up, because it looks like there's going to be a lot more intrigue than I was expecting. I've read the first 2 chapters, and so far we have Galilee, who is a young woman who has grown up in this group of women who are powerful, and they're sort of kind of like demon hunters almost, and they're the ones that sort of stop any evils, and she's always felt like she doesn't quite fit in, that there's something off about her. In the prologue chapter, we do have where one of the relatives is kind of saying like, look, this girl's not one of us, she's not right, there's something off about her, and then the grandma being like, nah, she's one of us, and anyone who's one of us gets our protection, kind of thing. These women are an interesting group of people. I'm really liking the aspect of this matriarchy and these women supporting women's situations. Galilee, I think, is going to prove to be quite an interesting character, and I'm really excited to see where the romance is going to go. I love Akwaeke Emezi's writing style. I think they do a fantastic job of creating a setting really quickly. Again, both Pet and Bitter that I've read by them are incredibly quick reads, and they do a really good job of like immersing you from the get-go. And they do a really good job, I think, also of creating like a fictional city that just feels like a place that you know, you don't really question it at any point. They've got that grounding down really well. Having a good time with this one. I'm looking forward to continuing, and yeah, I'll hop back in once I guess I've got some more thoughts. Hey vlog, I am now halfway through Son of the Morning. I have been absolutely flying through this. It's been like a few hours. It's not a very long book, to be fair. I think I'm on page 100 and something. I don't even think I'm on page 200. 161. So again, not a very long book, but I am absolutely flying through this and I am having a great time. Okay, so far Galilee has met Satan, met Lucifer, and they met at this like gala. Literally hit it off right away. Like they are immediately getting kinky. It was fantastic. The thing is, what I really like as well is that with paranormal, you can really get away with stuff like that because you have like the fated mates or whatever these sort of like tethers are that make people kind of almost be drawn to each other. It's explained in a way that I really like because she can make him feel. He can't really feel, he's been numb, and she can make him feel. And it kind of causes him pain, but it's something that he wants because it's feeling for the first time. I don't know, I'm really liking the way that that is depicted, I suppose. I am really liking the conversations about religious iconography that we are having, angels and demons and God and the devil and all of that. That's really cool as well. And like the princes of hell and the way those things are being depicted. The sex scenes were very, very hot and very, very spicy, and I liked them a lot. And I'm hoping there will be many more of them. And I'm always here for Nkwekwe Emezi, man. They write men just so well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing. I don't have a huge amount to say. It's a romantasy, you know. One thing I will say though, so I've said this in the past, while everyone else was in their vampire era in the like mid 2000s, when everyone was into like Twilight and the Vampire Diaries or whatever it was called, when everyone was in their vampire era, I was in my Angels era. I was always an Angels and Demons girly. Hush Hush and Fallen were my two favorite YA series growing up. The fact that we've had like a tiny resurgence of Angels and Demons, because I read Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse last year, loved that, gave me all those vibes, and now we have this one, which is a romantasy. Like the other one's a paranormal fantasy, this one's a romantasy that has that. Here for it, absolutely here for it. Finally getting what I want. So if y'all know of any other paranormal romantasy that is Angels and Demons coded specifically, I would love to know. Like any steamy, spicy Angels and Demons romances, I'm here for it. All right, I would love to know. I want more. Fabulous. So yeah, so far so good. I'm having a great time. I'm looking forward to continuing. I am really loving how intense Lucifer is coming across. I can't wait to continue. Basically, I have checked in because otherwise I'll just binge read this whole damn book and then I won't have checked in at all and be like, started it, finished it, bye. So I thought it would actually be sensible if I, actually checked in before I finish reading the entire book. So that's what we're going to do. I am going to go continue reading. I will probably finish this. I would like to say that I'm going to be the kind of person that's going to be really responsible and check in again with some really insightful thoughts, but I'm not. That's not who I'm going to be. That's not who I'm going to be at all. I am going to be the girl that is going to go now sit and not move until I've finished this book. Having to stop to eat dinner is going to feel like a fucking imposition with this one. If that doesn't tell you what kind of time I'm having, nothing's gonna. So yeah, I'm very excited to get back to this, and that's exactly what I'm gonna go do. Hey vlog, I'm here to check back in because I have made some progress. I have in fact finished Son of the Morning and I have started Space Opera, so let's get into them a little bit. First of all, Son of the Morning, 5 stars. I had a splendid time with this book. By God, did I enjoy this book. It's bisexual disasters. It's a bit of poly going on in there. We've got absolute chaos going on and the kind of dichotomy between heaven and hell and it not being quite so absolute. We've got redemption arcs going on. I loved it. I had a fantastic time with it. I'm really glad I read it. Would highly recommend for obvious reasons. There were some spicy scenes in there, which I haven't read ones I've liked this much since Harley Liveru. Also top points there as well. It's one of those that it brought forth the nostalgia, like I said, because I was more of an Angels and Demons girly than I was a Vampires girly when I was in my teens. So it brought forth that nostalgia, brought it into modern context with modern representation and with adult themes and adult tones. We also had sex scenes that I enjoy because of the way that they are written to do more with the way that you can have healthy power dynamics and healthy, I suppose, understanding of each other's bodies in a way that I like. Overall, just great. I had a great time. And then on top of that, great plot, great character work. Now, if you're not into Instalust, this won't work for you. But if you like Instalust, here for it. I would recommend. If you're looking for a romantasy with some good kinky stuff in it, some really interesting explorations of heaven and hell, I'd recommend. It's that simple. I had a fantastic time with it. I did also start space opera. I've literally read the first 2 chapters. I just wanted to get like a vibe check before I jumped in. And so far I'm really liking the tone. Very different from the only other Catherine Valente that I've read, which is Deathless, which is a lot more ethereal in tone. This one is very comedic in tone. Like not in like a haha funny, but in like a satire kind of way. And I am really looking forward to seeing what this is going to discuss, because I love when we remove the humanness of Earth, when we try and look down at Earth as a onlooker instead of as a participant. I absolutely love books that do that, because I think it does it in a really interesting way of like perceiving humanity and the silly things that we take for granted, that we assume are the status quo, the things that we are refusing to change, or that the masses are unable to change due to the few that are in power. All of those things, I think it's done in such a good way. And I am excited to see how Catherine Valente is going to tackle this, because I think she did a fantastic job when she did Deathless of discussing themes and conversations around folklore and around World War II. So I know that she can handle themes really well. And I think that her deciding to do this through a satirical tone means that I think that she's going to do like a broad blanket satire of our existence. And I am here for that, and I'm excited to see it. So not a huge amount more to say, obviously, on this yet, because literally I'm 2 chapters in, but I am looking forward to it. I know that the broad context of this is that there's going to be a space-wide talent contest, and we're going to select a human to perform in this as part of it, and I am excited to see what that is going to actually entail. I'm assuming we're going to be satirizing the way that media functions and the way that we kind of treat celebrity culture, contests on shows, all those kinds of things, versus also just the general existence of humanity. I think we're going to be comparing, contrasting, and satirizing those 2 elements. So I'm really excited to see how thematically rich this gets. So I'm going to stop yapping, continue reading, and I will check back in once I have made some more progress. All right, vlog. I have now gotten halfway through Space Opera, so I thought I would check in and give you some thoughts. First and foremost, that I am having a mixed time with this one. I'm not disliking it, but I am not sure how much of it is for me. A couple of things. First of all, I really do appreciate the tone of this book, because it feels like Eurovision. So the whole concept of this came from someone daring Catherine Valente to write a space version of Eurovision, or like an SFF version of Eurovision. It feels like Eurovision. Like if you've ever watched Eurovision, the bizarreness, the wackiness, the way the presentation happens, not just the acts themselves, but the way the presenters are, the way the interactions are, the type of audiences that it gets. It's all very outlandish, all very bizarre, very over the top. Like that's what's characterized by Eurovision. And it is feeling that. The tone, the descriptions, all of it feels very Eurovision. I'm not a fan of Eurovision. I think it's doing a really good job of that, don't get me wrong. Also, the politics of Eurovision. Everyone knows Eurovision is political. You can almost always guarantee you know which countries are going to vote for which, right? The Scandinavian countries usually vote amongst themselves. The Mediterranean countries tend to vote amongst themselves. It's one of those where it's clearly political and it's pretending not to be. And the same is happening here. Basically, these humans need to not come dead last. They've been given a list of potential groups that qualify for this competition from this alien group. And most of them are, because the list is really out of date, most of them are either dead, too old, or indisposed. Basically, the only group that is left that even has a shot at doing it is the group that we are following. However, they're down a 3rd member. There were 3 of them, one of them died in a car accident, and now there's 2 of them. They are now having to try and perform together, just the 2 of them, even though Mira, the one that passed away, is the one that was like the linchpin of the group before. And they're having to work together, and they're uninspired, and they are really past their prime, but they've got to try, and they just need not to come dead last. But of course, a lot of these intergalactic communities have been in communication with each other for a prolonged period of time, and Earth is the newcomer, is the newbie. It's basically that. It's, you know, they need to try and curry favor, really. I'm really enjoying the commentary, but again, it's too Eurovision coded for me. I'm not a Eurovision kind of girly. And the thing is, even the fact that we've got these washed up singers, because a lot of the time that's what Eurovision is, we just get someone who was famous back in the day and who then, you know, gets thrust back into the limelight, or complete unknowns. Very rarely do we have like the best the country has to offer as our Eurovision entry. You know, it's doing a good job with the corniness and with the depiction of Eurovision. It's feeling very Eurovision. So if you're a Eurovision fan, I think you'll really like this. I'm not a Eurovision fan. The wackiness, not my thing. The vibes, not my thing. And I get frustrated by the politics because it's politics until it's not. It's very much like, it's very clearly political. It very clearly is, this country's voting for this country. It's nothing to do with the act itself. It's just which country this person is from. But then as soon as, you know, they're like, oh, you know, don't bring pride flags because it's not acceptable because it's political, or don't bring a Palestine flag because we can't do that because it's political. Don't try and penalize Israel because it's not the singer's fault. That's too political, you know. And I hate that. I hate that it's political and then it's pretending not to be political to be the point where it's trying to be dangerously apolitical. It's very much only politicizing marginalized peoples, and I hate that. And this book is touching on those things. I would like it to go harder potentially. I don't dislike it. I don't love it either. So I'm just having a time with it at the moment. Neither good or bad time, just a time. So I'm going to go finish this one up. I'm definitely not going to need to check in again. I really don't feel strongly enough about it to check in again. So once I finish this one, I'll check back in and we'll wrap up this vlog. All right, vlog. I am here to wrap up the vlog. I have finished Space Opera, very much still in keeping with everything that I said before. Everything that I felt about it still applies. I think that we're having interesting conversations around the politicizing of competitions and contests. I think that especially Eurovision is one of those that is pretending that it's not political while very much being political. And I think that conversation is really important in the way it's had. You could kind of parallel that to sort of anything obviously pertinent right at this moment. We have what's going on with the World Cup in the US, and I think that the conversations that it had were good. Tonally, I think again it suited what it was doing. It suited that Eurovision vibe really, really well. You've got these washed up deadbeat celebrities that are trying really hard to bring it back. You've got an act that is incredibly over the top. It was a good time. I probably am not going to read the sequel. I don't think that this captured me enough for me to be like, yes, this is something that I would really like to continue to read more of. I got what I needed to out of it. I enjoyed it enough. It's got 3 stars. I don't think I'm going to think about this book very much. And again, I think if you're a Eurovision fan, but you are someone who, like me, is quite politically critical, quite systemically critical, you like watching Eurovision, but also you have your qualms, I think this book might be a bit cathartic in that sense. I think it brings a lot of that to the forefront, as well as just seeing kind of this semi-debauched celebrity life going on, and also this outlook on humanity as a whole. Again, I said this before, I do really like when we remove ourselves a little bit from Earth, because it's such a leveler. You very much see then the way that as a whole humans in the larger scheme of things should all be equal. Like, what possible difference could an alien have regarding our class, our financial differences? Even our clothes probably are insignificantly different to them, and yet here we are all squabbling amongst ourselves. And I like when we have that outlook, the idea of humanity resting on a few people. Are they the right people, and they're not people that we got to choose? I think that a lot of the conversations that we had were really good. It's not a topic that, well, it's a topic that I like, but it's not a scene that I like, and the atmosphere of it felt very Eurovision. So I appreciate it for what it is, but it's not a book that necessarily feels like it would be 100% my thing, if that makes sense. That's it for the vlog. I have finished 4 things, which I think is quite impressive. The first thing that we finished was How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I really, really appreciated this. And for someone who proclaims I don't like cozy, I clearly do sometimes, because I did really enjoy this book, and I think that it had a lot of heart to it, and it had a lot of really subtle but important conversations to be had about mental health, as well as actual systemic and given societal issues. I would highly recommend this one, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read was A Resistance of Witches by Morgan Ryan. Again, I really enjoyed this. I'm not much of a World War II girly, but I think that this did a really good job of highlighting women, and even in a fictional sense, just the idea of the way that women function within the world and within society, and our roles within World War II, I think were highlighted in a really interesting way. Really interesting conversation about witches, about witchcraft and magic, around the division that we have within witchcraft, about the types of magic and the way that will be implemented. We had a bit of conversations around academic snobbery, lots of important themes, and a really interesting plot, while not necessarily very character driven. So if you're a character driven reader, I'm not sure this would be for you. I think that by the end of it, it did also develop a lot more sentiment than I was expecting it to. And I also gave this one 4 stars. The third one that we finished is my favorite of the vlog, and that is Son of the Morning by Akwaeke Emezi. And this one is exactly what I wanted it to be. It is a angels and demons kind of romance. It is steamy, it is fast paced, it's super easy to get through. Got some really cool folklore woven in there. We've got some badass women. We've got some really hot, sexy scenes in there. And we've got a really interesting relationship dynamic, and the way that that is displayed through the inner workings of these characters. Really loved it. 5 stars. Would highly recommend. One of my favorite romances of the year. And then the last one, of course, that we have is Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente, which I appreciated. I really appreciated the conversations I was having. I think it was well written. I just don't think that I am necessarily its target audience as someone who is apathetical at best about Eurovision, but also that I don't really necessarily read a huge amount in the way of comedic tones. And while it was more satire than anything else, I do think that the flamboyance that was brought forward as a Eurovision parallel is just not my scene. So I really did appreciate the book. I really did enjoy it, and I would still highly recommend it if it sounds interesting to you, and especially if you're a Eurovision fan. I think the atmosphere is down pat. So those are the 4 that I read for this vlog. I really have enjoyed my time doing the Tarot Readathon, and I might still use it to help me pick my reads for the rest of the month. I'm not going to have much of a chance to do much in the way of vlogging for a few weeks because they are going to start getting a little bit crazy now, and I'm just not going to have the time. I have finished all of my pre-filming now, so I am kind of sorted. I am potentially going to be doing a moving vlog when I actually first get to my flat, so that I've got like excuses to go out and just film my new area because it is stunning, but I don't really have much else planned in the way of vlogging for a little while, so it just gives me a bit of a chance to readjust to my whole new life. I will potentially still use tarot cards to help me pick my reads if I'm a bit stuck on what I fancy reading, but I'm not going to be filming it. So this is the chunk of Tarot Readathon that you guys are actually going to see. At least I've had a really good time with the Readathon so far. I think it's been hosted phenomenally. There's sprints all the time. I've been really enjoying the themes and the vibes of it. It's a really chill vibe over on the Discord as well, so I'm having a wonderful time. And it has gotten me back into tarot, which is always great for my mental health. I always lean into tarot when my mental health is a bit dipped, and I didn't realize how much I needed it until I started doing a daily tarot pull, or days where I was feeling really in on my feelings, and I do like a full spread, and it's really helped. So I'm really glad that it's brought me back to that as well. And then for the final chunk of my intentions behind this, I suppose, is I also did read on my Kindle, and I have been having a great time reading with my new Kindle. I do like my old Kindle with the buttons and everything, but like just being able to highlight with my finger instead of having to like move buttons around to try and highlight things, being able to type on the screen so it's quicker, just all the little things that I just didn't realize were so outdated on my Kindle until I had to buy a new one. Also, just the battery life on it has been an absolute game changer. Like the fact I still haven't charged it since I bought it, and I've read 4 books on there. I had to charge my old one every like 3 hours of use. So wonderful time. I'm really glad that I've got it, and it's going to really be a life changer when I first move, because I am not going to be unboxing all of my books straight away. So it means that then at least I've got access to something that's going to be easy to read, instead of frustrating where I have to kind of charge every 3 hours and don't have anything else to read. Also, all of these have ended up working for the Our Fantasy Bingo. I did manage to fit in How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days because I did not realize that one of the characters in How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days was nominated non-binary. I didn't know that until I picked up the book. I hadn't seen that mentioned anywhere, weirdly enough. So that is used now for trans non-binary protagonist. Then after that we have a Resistance of Witches, which I've used for choose a book by its title, because resistance and witches. Then we also have Son of the Morning, which, as I said, I have been able to use for POC author now that Akwaeke Emezi has been kind enough to move country. And then the last one, Space Opera, is for First Contact. And I will be counting this as hard mode, because while there is the threat of violence, technically, there's the threat of sort of eradication, it's not present on page, and it is very much supposedly about the music and about the performance more than inherent acts of violence. So there is a threat of violence, and I appreciate that's not necessarily fully in the spirit of the tile. I still think that this one counts for me personally, so I'm going to be putting it on First Contact. So yeah, fantastic time all round. Really enjoyed this vlog. I hope that you have too. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let me know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts on them. Let me know if you're participating in the Tarot Readathon, how it's going for you and what you're currently reading for it. Also, let me know how you're doing with your Our Fantasy Bingo. I would love to know. But that's all from me for today. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye.